Hello, what is going on, guys? Today we are reviewing the Acer Predator Helios 300 against the Asus X550ZA. Now, I know what you may be thinking, that these laptops are not even close to being on the same level. But what I am here to show you today are the differences between what I would consider a budget gaming laptop to a mid-level tier gaming laptop. Let's begin. So, to start out, what I would consider as a budget gaming laptop is anything for around $500. I purchased my Asus laptop over 2 years ago on Amazon for $450. It includes 1 terabyte of hard drive space, 8 gigabytes of RAM, an AMD 4-core A10 processor running at 2.5 GHz, although it can be overclocked up to 3.4, and an AMD Radeon R6 graphics card. For this price point, you are getting an amazing deal, especially considering how many other computers there are with much worse specs being sold at a similar or even higher price. Included in this laptop is a VGA, HDMI, Ethernet, 2 USB 3.0s, and a headphone jack on one side, and on the other, a CD drive plus 1 more USB 2.0. Personally, I enjoy the diverse amount of ports included, especially the older items that were not included in other laptops, such as a CD drive and the VGA port. I feel that the large variety of ports, as well as the amazing power to price ratio of the internal specs, is really the highlight of this laptop. Some drawbacks I could mention would be the overall cheap build quality, but honestly it's not something that I really care too much about, being that this would be my college laptop. A lower resolution non-IPS screen, which is important to some of you, although again I use an external monitor, so that really does not concern me too much, and a battery that only lasts 4.5 hours when using it for non-intensive tasks. So, on the other side, what I would consider as a mid-range or mid-tier gaming laptop would be something that's around $1,000. I purchased this Acer Predator last month, and so far I've greatly enjoyed it. It includes a 256GB SSD card, although for an additional $89 you can get it sent with a separate Seagate Fire CUDA 2TB hard drive. And then to install it, all you need to do is take out 1 screw from the back, like I did, and then plug in the hard drive. You can also do this with the RAM, but for right now the 16GB is plenty for me. I have to mention how much I enjoy this feature, the ability to upgrade a laptop without having to take it all apart, which is by far, hands down, one of my favorite items on this laptop. It also includes an Intel Core i7 running at 2.8 GHz, although it can be overclocked to 3.8, and a GeForce GTX 1060 graphics card with 6 GB of RAM. To put that in perspective, the Asus only came with 2 GB of graphics card RAM. Currently, this is the cheapest gaming laptop in terms of price to performance with a 1060 graphics card on the market. It's priced at $1,050, although it did once dip down under $1,000. Being released this year, nothing has yet come close to matching it. Included on this laptop is a full-size SD card slot, a USB 3.0, a USB-C 3.0, and an Ethernet port. On the other side is a headphone jack, 2 USB 2.0s, and a charger port. I do wish that they still included a VGA port, and ideally if one of those USB 2.0s became another 3.0. Otherwise, I really can't complain with all the options they give. Some highlights I could include is the red backlit keyboard, great build quality, although there are some cheap plastics on the bottom, and a full number pad like on the Asus, but while still maintaining the large arrow keys used for many games. Now, I haven't found too many things that I dislike about this computer yet, but I could mention that the screen could be a little brighter. Although, when I do compare screens between this and the Asus, it performs drastically better. Battery life is up to 6 hours with regular tasks, but it can fall down to 2 hours or less when you use it for heavy gaming. So now I want to show you some actual in-game comparisons. I chose Grand Theft Auto 5 since this is the game that I personally enjoy the most. We're going to start out by doing a quick loading time comparison. I sped this up by 3 times because it's pretty boring. I have both games installed on hard drives to make it more fair, but as you're about to see, the Predator is still going to load much faster at 42 seconds. It's probably because most of the user profile settings made it onto the SSD. Overall, it's less than a minute difference. So now this is the actual side-by-side comparison of both computers playing GTA 5. The left side's obviously the Acer Predator, and while the other side's the Asus. It really doesn't do too good of a job to show normal gameplay from the Asus. As you're about to see, the screen recording program demands a lot from the hard drive, so there are times when chunks just don't load. It doesn't happen when you play normally without recording. I'm using AMD's Rapture or Plays TV software that came with the computer. I tried another program, but it really doesn't make a difference. It's always going to end up taking a while to load. So in order to make a more fair comparison, I actually just decided to record the screen in the next clip. I know it sounds dumb, but it does a really great job of showing what the gaming experience would be like if you didn't try recording in the background and you just wanted to enjoy the game. Disregarding the color differences from the camera, both laptops do a fantastic job of rendering GTA. For the budget Asus laptop, you do have to make some sacrifices in the settings. I have most of the details turned down to normal, but in return it provides a very acceptable frame rate of around 25 to 35. In this clip here, I want to point out how you nearly cannot tell the differences between the two. Of course, there are some frame rate differences, but otherwise the level of detail is nearly identical. I found that anytime you aren't looking at the vegetation, so like roads or buildings, there is no way to spot a drastic difference, especially if you're zooming by in a car really quickly. Of course, I'll show you later the exact opposite is true, especially when you go out into nature or into a field. So here I really wish I was able to use the recording software on the Asus, but that would mean that chunks wouldn't load like in the earlier clip. Sadly, the discoloration and the distortion really takes away from the similarities and detail of many objects. For example, the Los Santos right now in the background. So who doesn't enjoy a good old benchmark test? For the Asus, I turned on the Rapture recording software since it seems that the loading screen between each clip only started playing once all the chunks were loaded. So luckily there were no holes in the map. For those of you wondering, I was using on the Predator NVIDIA's GeForce Experience or Shadowplay to record. It was specifically designed for the GTX chip, so it records very well. In this final clip, I want to show you what I said earlier about being the exact opposite when in nature or fields. The level of detail rendered by the GTX 1060 in the Acer is truly astonishing, from every individual plant being recognizable, all the way to the defocus when scoping in with the weapon. The Asus not so much. It is unable to render even close to the amount of particles and detail of the other laptop without completely falling on its face. So trying to match the Acer would require you to play GTA closer to 10 frames per second, which honestly isn't really playing, that's just lagging. Now for the conclusion. I really can't choose a clear winner. Each laptop offers something unique that the other doesn't. For most people who simply want a cheap, affordable laptop for college while still enjoying some light gaming, the Asus is the way to go. The less than $500 price tag is extremely appealing, especially for how capable it is. I myself bring this laptop every day to my college classes. It works perfectly for simple tasks such as Microsoft Excel or browsing the internet. But it can also run other programs such as AutoCAD just fine. Hell, even the video you're watching right now I made on this laptop in Sony Vegas, no problem. I've even played Fallout 4 on this laptop, and again with lowered settings it plays just fine. Now sure, it may take a little longer for large files or projects, but it always seems to get through it no problem. And for many people that's exactly what they look for. But now for the Acer Predator. My final thoughts on it? Well, let's just say it does everything I described, but in super speed. Loading files from the SSD is nearly instant. Rendering times have been cut down to nearly a fourth, battery life is longer, fans quieter, and every game I play on it will perform better than anything I've even seen on consoles. I felt this laptop would suit me because of my frequent gaming, video editing for YouTube, and also my very intensive downloading of Linux ISOs. Final words, both laptops are some of the best priced in terms of performance. They both seem to have very similar drawbacks, including their screens, the Asus being dim and having bad viewing angles, while the Acer is just dim, their speaker sound, but it's not like most people even use the built-in speakers, and also the build quality is not that great. But let me mention, this is against similar laptops in each one's segments. You can't really compare the Asus to the Acer because, of course, yes, the Acer is going to feel and perform like a tank over the Asus. I mean, it does have a $600 advantage. So for someone like myself, who often uses an external monitor and keyboard anyways, the laptop drawbacks are completely erased. So essentially, these laptops were exactly what I was looking for, and that is pretty much why I purchased each one. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.